Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Cake Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with the spiritual side of our existence. You're familiar with the physical and the mental and the emotional, but we have been discussing the spiritual, whatever that is. My name is Clint Houghton. With me is Wendy Dahl. Wendy.
Hi, Clint.
Hello, Wendy. If you're joining us for the first time, you should know neither Wendy nor I run any kind of a religious organization, nor has our formal education been along those lines. We were both raised relatively conservative Christian. Wendy is Mormon. I was raised Lutheran, but have since explored a lot of different theologies and philosophies. Plus, we are both in the event industry with an international clientele. That has exposed us to a lot of different customs and rituals and traditions. And we bring all of that into this conversation. And that's exactly what it is. It's a conversation. And if you want to join the conversation, then at the end of this episode, we will tell you how to do that. Wendy, I was thinking, and I don't know why, but I was thinking a lot about that special room that's at LAX, the airport. It's like a meditation room. Are you familiar with that?
No, I am not. How cool.
See, a lot of people aren't. You know how in the movies or the TV shows, the hospital will have a chapel, something like
hmm
that?
hmm
And that's another thing. I mean, my hospital, Kaiser, is right down the street. I would love to find out where that room is because I've never even thought about it when I'm going there to do other stuff. But I was thinking about the airport. First of all, I bet there's a special name for that room. Well, it's got to be all inclusive, I guess, is a way to say that because it's an airport. So there's a proper name for it. And then I wonder what the criteria is to establish a room like that in a place like an airport. So I went to the third member of our podcast, which is ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, what is the proper title of a meditation room in an airport? And would you please explain the criteria and where to find them? As you can see, they don't have a specific title. They have a bunch of titles, I guess, depending upon when it was built, or an interfaith chapel is the most traditional and religious inclusive. Although chapel has connotations that I would think would be Christian, but I guess maybe everybody around the world kind of understands the function of a chapel. So that's cool. The prayer room. Oh, this is common internationally. That's interesting. Like, so if I went to an airport outside of America, I would ask for the prayer room. See, now I'm on a mission. I mean, seriously, the next time I go to Kaiser, I'm going to specifically say, where is your interfaith chapel or your prayer room, or also a meditation room? I guess for the people that don't identify with a specific religion or faith directive, then maybe a meditation room would be more comfortable for them. It's interesting. Labels really affect people. And you found that to be true, yes?
Oh, sure. Just not me.
No?
I don't it's interesting, and maybe it's because I do multicultural weddings where like the labels of what people say about things, like I don't get triggered by those things where I'm like, I guess I go straight to curiosity instead of a label of like defensiveness or anger or whatever. Like I don't get triggered by any of those things because I respect everybody's way of defining things.
That's probably really healthy, in my opinion. In fact, that's kind of why we started this podcast, really, because we were both curious about a bunch of things. I think I said in one of the first episodes that words are just symbols because we're trying to communicate either a thing or a concept, and we slap a word on it. One of my favorite things that Steve Martin, when he was doing comedy, he was talking about in France they call this a that, and they call this a that, and then he started chuckling like it's like they have a different word for everything. Then that's kind of the way I look at words, and what are we actually trying to communicate? All right, so
Mhm.
there's a reflection room. I like that. It, like it says, it's very, very neutral. You know what it says? Newer airports. So that would be fascinating. And I wonder if it matters the size of the airport, or if this is mandated that it has to go into an airport because it's a public place. That would be interesting to find out. And then the quiet room. Anybody who's a parent, they desperately want the quiet room. I remember there was a comedian that said parents don't care when kids are fighting. They don't care who's right, who's wrong, who started it. They don't care. They just want quiet. They're
Right.
like, all right. So the criteria for airports, inclusivity, it's open to all religions and non-religious users. It's minimal. I do remember when I looked into that room at LAX that it was mostly an open room with some things that you would attach to meditation, maybe even, I don't know if there was any specific religious icons or symbols. I don't remember that. Sometimes separate washing areas or prayer rugs are available. Well, I know that washing hands is really important in the observant Jewish traditions. Before Shabbat dinner, everybody has to go wash their hands. Shabbat is their holy day. starts Friday night and goes through Saturday sundown. But I also think that washing is a tradition in the Muslim community. Does that sound familiar?
I haven't paid attention. I know when I'm doing Muslim weddings, we have prayer times that we
Right.
are very observant of, but I don't recall seeing people washing hands.
When I went to yoga, again, a long time ago, I was there for about 8 years. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't an ashram over in India. It was just in a suburb and it was in a strip mall. But I went there like twice a week and we all brought our own yoga. It wasn't a mat the way you would see now. I mean, everybody has seen those rolled up like foam mats that you would do your yoga postures on. Well, back in the day, we just brought a towel. I mean, the
Hmm.
room was carpeted, but we just had a towel. I don't know if they said it or if I grasped onto the concept that if I use this towel over and over again for spiritual practice, and because I also would meditate on it and that sort of thing, and I would bring it home and I would put it where my little meditation spot was. So it was just like constant. And I always believed that it had like a special energy within it. I don't know if that's true. All I do know is that, 50 years later, it was falling apart. I mean, there was pieces of that towel just walking around. So I finally just gave it my blessing and let it go. Now that meditation towel is helping some landfill have a higher purpose. The other thing is accessibility. It's got to be where people can find it. It has to be wheelchair accessible. I never even thought of that. That makes sense. I think everything that's built now has to. It's open during the airport operating hours, which with an international airport, that's kind of 24/7, I would think. Aren't there international flights that leave like at 2 in the morning or something like that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I would think it's always there. So another criteria is got to be quiet, which makes sense. I wonder if that means, because I just saw it like in a hallway. I would say it's safe to say like millions of people go through LAX on an annual basis. So they must have some kind of soundproofing to keep it as quiet as possible. Yeah, it wasn't near the gates, but it was in a hallway. You can use it for prayer, meditation, decompression. See, that's interesting. I like that a lot. That if someone is anxious, and there are a lot of people who don't like to fly on planes, there was a comedian that said, it's a flying metal tube. What are you complaining about? Grief or emotional reset during travel. That's really cool. How to find them. You can Google the airport and put in chapel or prayer room, or if it's inside the airport, you can look for signs. I like the international signs that don't have words, they just have symbols. Obviously, we know where the restrooms are. We know if something is wheelchair accessible. So this would be folded hands, a crescent and cross combo. There's a specific interfaith symbol. Did you know that?
No, and if you were to ask ChatGPT what that looks like, it'll give you a drawing of it.
There we
Oh,
go.
good.
Over my shoulder right here, I've got something that was an interfaith thing for me. It's in the peace sign, but you can't really see it unless I went zooming in close.
No, we can see it.
Okay, so no, what I mean is you can't see the intricacies of it because it's consisted of every single religious symbol. The whole design is made up of all of those. And I
Hmm.
really gravitated towards that. This is cool, but I don't see the what it was talking about with that was just a, let's see, what does it say? A crescent and cross combo. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Well, copy and paste that into and say, could you show me an example of this?
Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I've never seen that before. I would never identify that as a religious symbol or some sort of a spiritual thing. That's
Good.
fascinating. All right, so let's go back to where we were. So if you're looking for this room, then you can ask people who work there, where's the chapel, where's the prayer room, where's the meditation room? They probably all know where to send you. For a pro tip, the older US airports, usually they call it a chapel. The newer international terminals, usually it's a prayer reflection room or meditation room. And then I said, well, what other public places have similar rooms? Well, healthcare facilities like my hospital right down the street, in healthcare facilities, chapel, reflection room, serenity room. I really connect with that whole serenity thing. I think that's awesome, especially in a hospital. Grief processing is important, emotional support, stress relief. Every major hospital has one. Colleges and universities, I would love to explore this. Meditation rooms, interfaith center, spiritual life center, a quiet room. And that's pretty self explanatory. A lot of the campuses now include nap and quiet rooms. So that's completely different. I thought this was like an Asian culture where the airports have a sleep room where you can rent like a pod and take a nap. You ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah, Japan has that.
See, there you go. Oh, corporate offices. This is really important. I don't know if they would let me in to take a look at it. In the city that's right next to where I live, there's a lot of big tech companies. And I would think that the tech companies, because they have an international labor force, that they would have these rooms, I would guess. But that'd be curious to research that. A wellness room, a recharge room, a quiet room, a prayer room. Oh, a lactation room. Oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. That's interesting. Have you been in that a work environment when you were nursing and they had a separate room for you?
So actually, when I had children, there was no such thing as a lactation room. But when I was chief growth officer of an organization, there was a woman at one of our locations that was nursing, and we brought in a special pod just for her for lactation because our state requires you to provide something for them that's private and separate from everything else so that they could either pump or not that the baby was ever at the location, but that she could do that. But I remember it's a funny fact. I actually remember going into the public bathroom, and at the time, I was pumping breast milk for my niece who was allergic to all of the different formulas that were available at the time. So I remember sitting in a public bathroom pumping, and the sounds of my pump was really funny. And I'd hear people come in, and they're like, nobody ever said anything like, "Oh, there goes Wendy again in the bathroom pumping." It was just like I just sat there and I was pumping.
Wait, did you say that California requires that to have?
It does, yeah. At least for what we were doing, there was
That's kind of
a
cool.
requirement. Well, it is for the employee for sure, but it was a very expensive thing to do. And I mean, I was happy to do it because I know that it's necessary, but I was really surprised that it was A, required and B, so expensive. But I've
Yeah.
actually seen these lactation rooms in airports where you're like walking down the hall, and it's a very similar solution to what we use, where it's like a portable room that they just kind of drop off, and it has like a door and it's all private and it has its own like ventilation and lighting system inside of it. And so it's nice and comfortable.
I would think every
Um,
terminal has to have it. Like if it's a big
yeah, or
airport, every terminal has to have something like that because it needs to be
right.
accessible.
Yes, or it's a family bathroom now where there's like a lounge inside of a
Oh,
bathroom.
right.
And so the problem with that though is that if it's a family bathroom, like everybody could come inside of it if they really wanted to. So the privacy factor if you're breastfeeding or pumping or something isn't there. Also, I have some insight on airports. I was actually working with the Ontario International Airport for a time. What's interesting is that every airport has like amenities that they give to travelers, and so it's up to their discretion on what the amenities are. The meditation room or, the chapel or whatever is considered an amenity because the rest of the airport, it's like a commercial real estate scenario where
Oh,
you actually are working with a leasing agent that is leasing the space out of the airport.
well,
Interesting how that works, huh? And I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of extra rules that they have to follow. But I know that airports are, especially, I remember Ontario Airport for some reason, like, I felt like they were very forward thinking in comparison to the other airports in the area where they were looking for ways to improve the traveler's experience.
And just to be clear for the listeners, if they are curious, if it's you're talking about Ontario, a city inside California, not Ontario,
Yes.
Canada. Yeah.
No,
That
yes.
it must be a relatively newer airport then, I'm guessing, if they were a little bit more forward looking.
Yeah, and they're in hard competition with LAX and Long Beach and Orange County. So, they're kind of out there all on their own.
Right.
But what was interesting was that like the city was involved with that airport. So it wasn't just like a standalone commercial operation. Like there was a heavy involvement from the local government.
Well, that makes sense to me
Hmm.
with international airport because of all the and that we wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily put that into a spiritual category, but
No, but it was fascinating to learn like all the things that they were like when I went in for a site visit to see all the things that they were doing for the traveler. I don't recall
right.
seeing a meditation room. I would imagine that there could have been one because it seemed like they had a lot of other things that most airports don't.
Yeah, and just having the realization that they would have to have a lactation room in every terminal, they would have to have one of these rooms, meditation rooms in every terminal as well. So that's interesting. A little bit
Yeah.
of research there. Okay, so convention centers. I was just at the big Los Angeles Convention Center not that long ago, and I didn't even think of that. Next time I go there, I'm going to do a little research and see where that room is because you would think that they would have to have it, especially as big as the Los Angeles Convention Center is. And then, of course, Las Vegas, I go there every year, especially post 2020 because of the pandemic, I guess. So, convention centers, sports stadiums. Well, okay, there's two new ones here in Los Angeles. There's the big football stadium, SoFi, and then there's the new basketball stadium. The Clippers play there. There's got to be probably, if it's a new arena, if it's new venue, then there would probably be some sort of a meditation or prayer room inside there. That's fascinating. This is great. So, transportation hubs beyond the airports, like train stations, cruise ships, government buildings. They see that's another thing. Marriage licenses, I will have to go there every now and then to a Superior Court building and to find out where their chapel is. What a great journey I am about to embark on. This is fun. So it's really important for religious inclusion. I would imagine there are other parts of the country that are so Christian based that that inclusion thing might be a new concept, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Well, this is really cool. I really want to research this thing because if every place has a room where you can do your spiritual practice, I think that's fascinating. Did you know this? Did you know that you worked with the airport? So I would imagine you knew
Mhm.
that that existed. But did you know that all these other places have these types of rooms?
Not all of them, no, but some of them, yes. Where, I've seen chapels and hospitals. Most interesting, I was at a hospital last year with my brother, and I remember watching like 20 people go into the chapel.
No kidding.
And yeah, and I remember thinking to myself, I hope they get what they pray for. You know,
Yeah.
I just wish that, when people put their faith in their higher power, their God, that they get what they pray for. I know that's not always true, but I always wish the best for people.
Yeah. And sometimes I would hope that they're able to process it and come to and find some peace one way or
Yes.
the other. I
Yes.
mean, there's all kinds of emotions. Whenever I do a funeral or a memorial, the very first thing I say, obviously, thank you for coming, but the first thing I say is whatever you're feeling is correct. You know, when there's a loss, everybody has a different experience in connection to the person who has passed. And
Hmm.
whatever you're feeling is correct for you. Because I mean, a lot of people think, well, I should be feeling this or I should be feeling that, or they get embarrassed or feel guilty or shame. And I would like to get rid of all of that right off the top and let them know that no, 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 this is your experience and whatever you're feeling is what you're supposed to be feeling. And
Yeah.
then as they go through their journey of processing it. Well, that's it. Oh, I'm so excited about all this. I now have a new quest.
I know,
So
right? I was imagining us going on adventures and everywhere we are in the world taking pictures of chapels and airports.
I'm going to have to add an extra maybe half hour to an hour to make this happen whenever I go someplace. All right,
Right?
Wendy, tell everybody how they get in touch with us.
You can find us at spiritualcake.com where you could go back and listen to or read any of our previous episodes. You can click one of the two social media icons and join us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send us an email requesting a topic or even to join the conversation.
Absolutely. And when you do join the conversation, please know we welcome you with open arms. That's it for this episode of the Spiritual Cake Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of Wendy, we will see you next time.